up, world, and welcome to the All Real Show. This is where we discuss issues pertaining to the socioeconomic system and how they relate to everything. Why and how are the fundamental questions. Answer them enough, you get to the truth. I'm your host, Alex, and welcome back to part 2 of my discussion with Sasha. I'd like to start this episode off by addressing something. You know, I've said for a long time, it's money. It's all about the money. It's 100% the money. It's the system. This is what causes the problems. This is why you can't fix the problems, all those types of things. I still wholeheartedly believe that. But when I started reading the trauma material and I watched the documentary, which is 13 hours long, but of course, you know, you can watch it like I did, like I'm sure a lot of people do. You watch it in parts or whatever. And he's actually, you know, it's all broke into parts. So, you know, but anyway. And again, everybody I know that deals with this stuff, that's what they say, money, money, money. And it is, but I can admit if I'm wrong or incorrect about something. All that means is, like I said in another show, a previous show, that means you've learned, exactly. Right? I mean, people see being wrong as bad because that's what society tells you. But in reality, if you want to admit you were actually wrong about something, that means at that moment you are understanding you were incorrect, and now you are more correct, at least, you know. So, and I don't know if wrong is the exact word here, but the point I'm trying to make is what trauma pushes and stresses is it's the trade that is the real cause of it. And I'll let you talk about that here in just a second. I just wanted to say that when I thought about it and when I read some of Trom's works and some of your writings and stuff, I have to admit that is really going even one step further from money. And a real quick example that to put it in people's, psyche of, yeah, that's right, that's true, is something like Facebook, for example, or even YouTube. You know, most people, if you ask them, well, yeah, technically you don't pay for it. Right. So that would appear as though you're not spending money. So you may not include that in the whole thing. But when you realize that you're trading your information and things like that are then used and sold and, you know, whatever, then you start to realize even more that trade really is everything. Trade is what encompasses everything. Right.
Because you have to think, what is money?
Right. So, exactly. Money is
yeah.
Go
No.
ahead.
Yeah, if you can answer the question.
Yeah, sure. Money is a vessel. That's not the right word.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an exchange. It's like I'm trying to think of the word, actually. I'm drawing a blank. But a way to account for different goods and services and put values on things.
Right. So, I mean, it's a medium that we use.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say that it's a medium that we use to, yeah, like you said, to put a value on the things that we trade, you know?
Right.
So money is just a medium, you know? It's not the actual main, you know, main problem. You know, money itself is nothing. It's just some paper or some numbers on a computer screen. The problem is, what is money representing? And this is what we stress at TROM, is that money is just a representation of trades, it's just the value that we put on the items that we trade. So the problem isn't the medium itself, it isn't money itself, it's the fact that in this society, everything revolves around trades. Everything is traded. That's why we go to work. You go to work, you act like a slave, you give away your time and your effort to get to trade for money. You get money as a trade for working. Then you take this money and you trade it for a place to live, for food, for everything else. And that's how our entire system functions, you know, it just revolves around trades. You trade one thing for another, another. And this causes an imbalance of power because someone is losing in these trades. And somehow, some very rich people get to kind of win, you know? And And
because they take a little part of every trade, right?
exactly, they're more in control of more items that are traded in the world. And
Right.
Teo goes through this in The Origin of Most Problems book. That's one of the most recent Trom books you can find on tromside.com. So they're ebooks basically that you can access for free, trade free. And he describes, like, thoroughly goes into detail about, you know, why trade is the root of most problems. And he, just like you mentioned, data trading, there are other trades rather than money, you know. Take social credits in China. You know, if people behave a certain way, they get a higher credit score. If they behave poorly, they get a lower credit score. So they get, it's a trade there as well. You know, you trade a particular behavior or what you buy, you know, for a particular score. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, a few years down the line, if China completely gets rid of money and uses social credits to pay their workers with and to buy products and all sorts of stuff. And I don't know how familiar you are with social credits, but it's...
I'm actually not that, I'm not that familiar. I did see either some writing or possibly on the Tromcast where you guys were talking about that.
You can find some interesting documentaries. Teo is the guy that created Trom. He also made a website called Video Neat, and there you can find like thousands of documentaries, and you can access them as well for free. And if you just look up social credits, you can find some interesting material. But basically, in China, they have a social credit system where every citizen is basically judged by all sorts of stuff, like the stuff they consume, where they work, just their general behavior, like whether they buy Chinese products or not. And according to that, they get a credit score. Now, if you have a low credit score, you might not be allowed to, like, travel long distances, maybe. You're punished with certain things. If you have a high credit score and you're like a good citizen, then you might have like discounts for a hotel, or, you know, maybe you won't have to put like a huge down payment down if you want to buy a house, these kind of things. So
that's fucking crazy. That's total totalitarianism.
Well, we had a Tromcast about social credits too a little while ago. It was pretty interesting because we kind of came to the conclusions that most countries are not that far from China.
Well, no, they're not. Exactly. I mean, a lot of those things you're saying, again, can be related to other countries in other ways. Maybe they don't use, you know, so-called social credits. They might use money, or like in the United States, and I'm sure other places, they have a credit score for your credit. And, you know, that acts in similar ways of, you know, controlling what you can do and not do and get access to. And
yeah, I mean, so that's also a trade. So you have to trade, you know, basically your freedom to get a high credit score or whatever the fuck, you know. There's other trades as well. I mean, there are tons of like Instagram people that get paid with products instead of money, in order to make a commercial on Instagram or whatever, post a fucking picture with an ad, you know.
Right.
Anyway, so in The Origin of Most Problems book, basically Teo goes over this and he posts a lot of examples about, you know, why trade is really the problem that we need to try to tackle.
Yes. Yeah. And just to, you know, lastly, I guess with that, or sort of to wrap it up, you know, another thing is I see people say about, you know, having access to the resources that, you know, okay, if money wasn't there, you'd have access. And kind of like you say also that access to resources as opposed to, you know, trade-free resources, it's the same thing, but packaged differently. You know, and then you say, and I again agree that you think the packaging is important because, one, it talks about the actual problem. And like you say, too, it clears up a lot of confusion in regards to what we actually have access to.
Exactly, because if you have access, everyone has access to Facebook, right? All you have to do is just go online and make an account and whatever. And people might say, oh, it's free, it's great. But maybe they don't realize that Facebook collects all of your data, all the fucking messages you write, anything you post, it knows everything about you. And then it sells this to companies that sell you shit, you know? it's not a good thing. So if you kind of package this as trade-free, then you can look at, whether it's actually trade-free. Is it actually trade-free? Because, okay, it's money-free, that's
right.
one thing, but is it free from collecting my data? Does it want anything else from me? Does it want a blowjob from me? Does it want,
Probably.
anything? In The Origin of Most Problems book 2 also, he goes through it in an interesting way about, how you can kind of rate how trade-free any particular good or service is.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's interesting. It kind of gives you a way to look at it and question everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you have him on the show, he can explain to you a lot more about this, this idea as well. But yeah, I think it's very important to package it like that as trade-free. Also, yeah, to so that people think about this problem, and in hopes that people would understand that, okay, the structure of our society is based on the need for trade. So if we want to solve problems in a holistic way, and if we want to change the structure of our society, we need a society that's not based on trades. Okay, so if you can make something that's trade-free, or if you can promote the idea that we should have trade-free stuff or services or whatever, then maybe we can actually eventually arrive at a saner world.
Yes, exactly. And like I was saying earlier about it's so vital, it really is, to understand, if possible, the main problem or the main issue. And it is money in almost every way, but to go that step further and realize trade encompasses everything. It encompasses money. It encompasses barter, access, It really does sum up everything. You can put it all into the word trade, and then you kind of get it. For me, it just helps to put it more clarified. I mean, it does define everything a little bit more. It all does tie to the trade, but it also it's more of a clearer picture, kind of, because just like we've been saying that, about how things that you might say is money free, so you don't regard them as, maybe a part of the problem or whatever. But when you tie it in with the trade and you realize you are trading for that too, you start to see really how everything is tied into the trade. You can find all this stuff on tromsite.com. That's the main website for Trom. And I'm definitely looking forward to having Tio on the show. Sure, we'll obviously mainly cover Trom when he's on the show. And you guys, it's every Thursday you do the Tromcast, right?
Yeah. Well, we don't always do it every week because sometimes we have,
life.
We're busy with something or But we try to do it, and when we try to do it every Thursday, and so it's at Thursday at 17 p.m. UTC time. So that's 8 p.m. Madrid time, and time zones.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so you're welcome to join. Anybody is welcome to join. We love having new people on the Tromcast and discussing whatever subject. We usually have a subject for each week that we decide on before the Tromcast. We just discuss.
Yeah, I'm honestly looking forward to it. I looked into it and I saw the time, and I had to figure out UTC before with somebody else, and shit, it was still confusing because it's saying 1800 and then it's like
so just 8 p.m. Madrid time.
Now if you say that, I can figure that out a little easier. That's when we started this, right?
Yeah.
So that's a lot easier to figure out. Yep. And if people are interested to be a part of that, I know they go to Tromsite and then they click on, what is it?
So if you go to tromsite.com/live, you can see our live updates, and there we will post the link to join. We use Jitsi, so it's like a platform where we can talk to each other on video chat, and you'll see the password there and how to join, so you can join. Any time we do it. So anybody is welcome to join. You can also go to basically any of the Trom pt.2 pages, except for the main page. And there you will see like a little arrow by the logo. If you click on that, that also sends you to the live page.
Okay. So the easiest way would probably be trumpsite.com/live.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Right.
And there we post all of our updates. I mean, it's mostly Theo doing, a lot of work because I'm busy with my book, but I help out a bit here and there with Trom, and a few other people help out as well and make some videos and snippets and other stuff. Yeah,
that's great. Your book too. I know you made on your Facebook page at least Big World Small Sasha blog on Facebook. You got a couple videos on there, a bunch of pictures, of course, and a book campaign. Short video. It's a great video too. It's Thanks. Nicely done, but like I said when I spoke with you before, your sincerity it comes through, in the video.
Cool.
And that's great. I hope that goes good for you. Your book, you're making progress, all right?
Yeah, I'm making progress. Yeah, I got a little bit stuck with this climate change because, like I said, I wrote that blog because I included it in my book. So I kind of got stuck because I ended up researching so much about climate change. But yeah, now I'm back to digging back into the story and stuff. Right now I'm editing a lot of the stuff that I wrote earlier. And then I have
I see.
Yeah, I'm done with more than half of it, but still a little while to go. So we'll see. Hopefully I'll finish it this year.
Yeah, I know. It takes time. Yeah. It does. And we're going to get in, lastly here, we're going to get into the Curious Five and the show segment we have where we just ask you 5 personal preference questions. I did just want to say real quick, because I meant to mention it earlier, on your blog also, the piece you wrote called Prison Earth. I know that's gotten some responses, and I really liked it.
Thanks.
I like the way you associated it, and you would know better than most people, having traveled so much. What it entails to move around this country. This world that you're supposedly free in.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it this way. I mean, a few years ago, I was dating a guy, and we had 4 passports between the two of us, but they were all different passports. Yeah. So I have a Russian and a US passport. He had an Australian and a Dutch passport. And we couldn't stay in one place for more than 3 months at a time usually, because there is no place on earth that you can just live. Well, we found out recently, Theo found out that there is a place called Svalbard in the Arctic Circle where anybody can go and just live. But, it's kind of in the Arctic Circle, you can only stay in this one small village, and there's polar bears, and it's really, really cold.
Holy shit.
So that's the only place on earth that allows people to just stay and live there without, apart from, your whatever tribe you were born in or somehow immigrated to. And I think people don't realize how, trapped we are and how much of a prison we're in. And, this was a problem recently for me and Theo as well, because we wanted to live together. And I came to Spain and I wanted to stay here. But by law, I was only allowed to stay here for 3 months out of every 6 months. So I could stay here for 3 months, then I had to leave for 3 months. So I did that. I went to the UK because it has different visa. Then I came back and stayed another 3 months, then I had to leave again.
It's fucking crazy, isn't it?
And it's it's an insane prison fucking world. And we had to go through a lot of bullshit for me to be able to actually stay here. And actually, we'll do a Tromcast hopefully this Thursday. Well, then the next Tromcast that we'll do, it will be called Prison Earth, and we'll talk about this in depth, and we'll talk about what Theo and I just went through, and it will be an interesting one, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Again, that's the thing with experience. I think a lot of people feel the control and the trappedness in their own little environment and world, even within their own, state or country, and then when you hear it from somebody who's done it like you with the traveling restrictions. I had a guy recently, actually, he was born in Kyrgyzstan, Central Asia. He lived in Russia too. And he talked a little about, not as much as you, but about some of the restrictions with traveling and stuff. But every fucking aspect of life is controlled and regulated. I mean, where you go, how long you can go.
Yeah. And people don't realize this. So long as they stay, and they are good little slave citizens, and they stay where they're supposed to, doing what they're supposed to, they don't realize how much of a prison this earth is, and how many restrictions we have.
Exactly.
Yes, it's not until you leave that environment that you find out how fucked up this world is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even with my passport, I lost my passport my US passport while I was in the UK last summer. And I went to the US embassy, got a new passport. I was asked to get a new passport, and I got one eventually, but it expired in 1 year. And I was like, why didn't you give me a normal passport? It's supposed to be for 10 years. And they're like, okay. Oh, it's, because you lost it one other time. I lost it once 10 years ago. And they told me that, I was like, okay, so how do I exchange this passport for a full validity passport? Because on this passport it says this is not a full validity passport, Right. And they said that if I apply, they might just give me another 1 year passport, and that they can, at any time they want, as much as they want, they can continue giving me just a 1 year passport.
I see.
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Because you're restricted with the 1 year passport. There are certain countries that won't let you in. There are certain things you can't do. Sometimes you need
right.
and plus it costs $150 every time you need to get a new passport. Not to mention going to an embassy wherever you are.
Yeah. It's really fucked up. I mean, but it's interesting to read this stuff, and that you've wrote and like that, and then like you were mentioning about some place you went that because you weren't there, or you were there for so long, if you go too many times or you leave too many times, they'll flag your damn passport or something. So it's all these things you have to think about, even to just and like you said, though, you've never done anything. It's, if somebody wanted to argue and say, well, look, she's a lifelong criminal, or
Yeah.
But yeah, you're just a person wanting to travel. That's it.
Yeah. I'm just a little human being, and I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not stealing anything. I'm not selling drugs. I'm not harming anybody at all. I'm just
Right.
all I am is just a fucking human. And maybe you were talking about the time. I was in and out of Australia for a few years, and like I said, I studied there, so at one point I had a student visa, but eventually that visa ran out, and I wanted to stay with a person in Australia, but they have also these rules where I can only be there for 3 months, so I had to leave, and I did it a few times where I was in Australia and then I left to a different country before the visa ran out, then I came back. And I did that just a few times before the immigration officer was almost didn't let me in at all, and then said, okay, this is the last time you're coming in on this visa. You will be denied if you try to come back to Australia. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. And then I haven't been back since. Because for me, it was always easier just to be like, okay, fuck off and fuck you and your stupid rules and your bullshit. I will just leave,
right.
And I will keep on traveling. And that was one of the reasons why I traveled so much, because I just kept on leaving. Fuck it. I'll just say one more thing, because I also find it crazy, that these countries, especially US and all sorts of European countries, say that they're all for human rights and this kind of stuff. But yet, they're not supposed to be racist to somebody if, a black person or whoever the fuck else shows up and they're not treated equally. But it's perfectly fine to treat a person that was born in the wrong country unequally. It's perfectly fine
Right.
to, show up at the border and, okay, one person is from the UK, they can come in no problem. Another person is from Nigeria. Oh no, you're fucked. There's no way we're letting you in unless, you prove to us you don't have AIDS. You prove to us you have all these medical papers. You prove to us that you have a job, a car, house, all of this shit. You prove to us a lot of shit and maybe we'll give you a visa. You'll probably have to do an interview. You have to go through a ton of shit just to get a fucking visa. And then you show up at the border and they might still deny you. And somehow they don't see that as unequal.
Right.
One person was born in Nigeria, the other one was born in England. Is it their fault?
The irony, honestly, of hypocrisy and contradiction is fucking astounding, really. I mean,
yeah.
When you see it from, a government or something saying it, that's bad, obviously, but you see it like, okay, they're full of shit, they're trying to. But then when you see individuals like that, and there's a lot that, this person's from there, they're okay. This person's not, or this person's skin color is like this, or they talk like this. It's such a primitive, ignorant way of thinking. I mean, it's astounding. And I know exactly what you're saying. And, on that, there's two meanings. That's another thing that's vital for people to get. There's two meanings, or at least two meanings for almost every word. So, if you look up democracy, for example, in the dictionary, it has the literal meaning or, whatever meaning. But when you hear a government, especially the U.S. government say it, it has a totally different meaning, but people perceive it as the dictionary meaning,
Yeah.
Yeah. But in reality, that's not what they mean when they use the word democracy, Okay, so I know we've gone a little over here. I apologize for that,
no
Sasha. I do want to get into this Curious 5 real quick. This is just a show segment, so we'll do that right now.
Get on with the ceremony!
And that sound means it's time for the Curious 5. And what this is we just ask you 5 questions, personal preferences, kind of get to, we've gotten to know you pretty well, but get to know you a little bit better here. And with your travels, I'm really interested on some of these. But the first one is, what is your favorite or least favorite accent?
Accent?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the Scottish accent. They're like impossible to understand.
Yeah, Scottish is cool. Yeah.
I don't know. New Zealand, New Zealand accent, instead of decks, they say dicks. They can make for funny conversations.
I bet.
Yeah, I don't know. Least favorite, I don't know, maybe like some like, I don't know, like redneck US, I think is not very nice sounding, but it's more important about what people say though, rather than how they say it. I think that's more.
That's true. I agree. Yeah, these are, again, this isn't like defining questions to, just general. If there's something that sounds better. I agree. The Scottish, that's interesting. They have a unique one. New Zealand kind of talks Australian in a way, don't they?
Yeah, they're similar to an Aussie accent, although probably if you say that to a Kiwi and an Aussie, they will not agree. Yeah. But, except they don't pronounce the vowels the same.
Yeah, right. Well, I have to agree with the redneck or southern U.S. That's just one of the most ignorant sounding twang.
It's kind of,
you could be smart.
Exactly.
You might be smart, but you sound dumb. I'm sorry.
It's kind of unfortunate because, you could, like you said, you could be actually saying some very important stuff and maybe people won't take you seriously.
Right. What I'm saying, buddy, is you're like, oh shit,
man.
What's this? That's not working. Okay. All right. What's second one is, what is your favorite or least favorite food or cuisine?
Food. It's hard to choose, like, especially favorites. I mean, I don't know. I love Mexican food.
Mm-hmm.
Paella is great. It's Spanish. I love Japanese food, Sri Lankan, Indian. I can't choose.
Yeah, I know. Again, I ask these questions to, see the responses, but I love food too. So that would be hard for me to answer.
Yeah. Least favorite, I don't know, like, Romanian food, honestly, is not that great. I spent the last, month and a half in Romania. It's kind of, it's just lots of heavy meat and...
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like some of the things you named use a lot of spices. Mexican, Indian,
Yeah.
Yeah, spice is definitely good with food.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 3 is, what's your favorite or least favorite music or genre?
That's hard also to choose because I don't know. I mean, least favorite would be pop music. Most pop music, I think, it's just kind of all sounds the same and kind of boring.
Yeah,
nothing to it. So
right.
I prefer something that has a bit more instrumentals or something.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Pop is,
Yeah.
it just sounds like a damn commercial, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's it's so dumb too.
Right. Yeah, they're not saying shit, right?
The lyrics of any new pop song are really, really dumb. It's just.
Yeah, were you? I'm sure you were, but exposed to different instruments and music in these different countries, and.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I have an ukulele from Hawaii. Well, from Nicaragua, actually.
Oh, nice.
I don't play it very well, though.
My brother-in-law's from Hawaii, so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So he likes the ukulele, and yeah, I had to look up music for the Summit show I was telling you about, the guy from Kyrgyzstan, and I was looking up, Kyrgyz music, and it's funny because when I was messaging him something, and I said, yeah, it was hard to find some decent music, and he replied with a big laugh, and I realized how it sounded. I didn't mean it was, it was kind of bad, but it was just hard because there wasn't a lot of it out there, but they used the thing called the kazoo or whatever, or not kazoo, some word, but yeah, it's cool. It's cool stuff, different cultures, what they do.
Yeah, you can find some interesting thing. I think anywhere in the world, you can find some really great musicians that nobody knows about, and you can also find some really shitty ones.
Right. So do you have a favorite kind of sound or style, like rock or pop? I mean, not pop, excuse me, but
I like
bluesy or Russian or.
Yeah, I don't know. I like rock. I like blues too and stuff like that. I like kind of Spanishy, kind of Spanish guitar and stuff like that as well. But most of the most interesting music that I've enjoyed are probably mixes of random stuff, like live music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, again, I'm a musician. I've done a lot of music, and so I like most of it too, minus pop and a few other things. But
what do you play?
I play drums.
Okay, cool. What kind of music?
Well, I've played mainly rock, metal years ago when I was younger. I actually though I prefer, and I have since I was probably, I don't know, 12 or something. I've preferred rap more than anything. Mm-hmm. But, again, if I'm playing drums, typically you don't play that to rap music. It's very repetitive beat, so you're just doing the same shit over and over. But, okay, 2 more here. Number 4 is, what's your favorite or least favorite country or area? I know that's hard too. But is there something a place that you were that you really stood out to you, or that you, this is
yeah, people ask me that question all the time, what's your favorite country? I mean, it's so hard to say because every place is so different. I don't even know how to compare it,
Right.
I really liked Hawaii. I spent, combined over a year there. Mm-hmm. And, it's really beautiful. The beaches are amazing. You have these huge mountains and amazing natural places that I quite enjoyed. But then, I spent the last, year and a half in Siberia. And in Siberia as well, there's this huge Lake Baikal, where I lived. And it's in winter, it freezes over about a meter and a half to 2 meters of ice, and it's crystal clear, and you have these like crazy icicles that you can see, and just to like stand through this massive layer of ice, and it's quite impressive as well. And there are also some really beautiful places going out into the mountains, because I worked as a hiking guide in Siberia just randomly.
Okay.
And so I like learned about some really amazing, spectacular places. So, I mean, for me, what I like the most, I guess, is natural places, nature.
Right, yes.
Rather than cities. But there's a lot, I enjoyed, like, Sri Lanka was really nice because it was also quite nice, and people were really friendly. The food was amazing for me, really spicy.
Yeah.
All kinds of places.
Yeah, nice.
And what I don't like, I guess, is like being stuck in like a big dirty city like Moscow, for example. It's just, I mean, it's just too big, and it's just so polluted, and there's no escape from the city. I don't like when there's no escape.
Yeah. I don't know if they compiled, the worst driving they can find from Russia and put it in a video, but
they should.
I don't know what the hell it is. Every video of you driving, and I don't watch them much anymore, but like compilation of driving things that I've seen from Russia, they all drive like bats out of hell, man.
Yeah. It's just because they all record their driving. So I think probably, well, no, Russians also drive quite, pretty crazy. Yeah. But, yeah. It's like that.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. But, yeah, of course, Americans, and I'm sure other places do as well. But I've seen some pretty damn crazy driving videos from Russia.
Yeah, if I compare the way that people drive in Russia to the way they drive in the U.S., I would say they're much crazier in Russia as a general.
Yeah.
Not to say that if you put cams on all the cars in New York City that you wouldn't get some crazy shit too, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I feel you on the natural thing. I mean, people that are very in touch with, themselves, nature, the grandeur of life and the universe, that's what's going to appeal to most people like that, is a natural beauty, I mean, cities, you might have some cool looking buildings and shit, but it's just a concrete jungle,
Yeah. And I mean, the earth is so beautiful. I mean, there are so many amazing places you could see. And, what I've realized was that you can see them, These natural places are actually usually, like, free or cheap, to get into, like, national parks with some amazing, beautiful places. U.S. has amazing national parks as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned that, of course, about, you write other pieces, but that's generally what your blog is about, is kind of explaining how you can do this. And, if people are interested, curious, whatever, refreshers, ideas, you point a lot of that out. And yeah, it's true. I'm sure that, a lot of the main places that people envision seeing, at least natural places, are pretty cheap to go to, or at least while you're there. I mean, getting there might be a different story, but.
But that's what I've learned also, is that, like, if your life is just this journey, with, like for me with one-way tickets, even getting there can be cheap as well, because it's not like I'm flying like all over the world all the time, going from Hawaii to Siberia or to Australia or whatever, it's, and then back again, I'm just going. And, I went to Mongolia not because I had, I saw some pictures somewhere and I wanted to go visit there. No, I just went there because I was already living close to Mongolia. So I hitchhiked there, because it was close. And then I traveled around there because it was close to where I already was. So I kind of check out the general area of where I'm living. And there are beautiful, amazing natural places almost everywhere.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It really is. Earth is beautiful. It's amazing how many things are out there. And you mentioning that that frozen lake, I saw you put some pictures up with that. It's really cool. Is that where you, what do you call it, dove to? Was it there?
Yeah, we went ice diving. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was really great. I mean, I have like a friend who's a diving photographer, so I invited him to come to Siberia while I was living there. And I was like, hey man, like we can ice dive for, it's like, I don't know, like less than $100 for one dive. I mean, I know that's expensive, but it's to ice dive in Lake Baikal, like a once or twice in a lifetime experience.
Exactly.
It's worth it. And because he kind of got quite big in the dive scene in the last few years, he actually managed to find sponsors. And instead of paying the $100 for the one dive, we ended up getting an entire ice diving course for free. And we were
nice.
these guys drove us, taught us everything, including how to make a hole in the ice and 2-meter ice to then go dive in it. They drove us out to different spots, different really beautiful dive sites. And taught us, the ropes, how to use the ropes, how to signal, how to do everything properly. So we even got certified as ice divers. And
wow, that's awesome.
We got some cool, pictures for what my friend was sponsored by, and another buddy came along as well to make a video. So I'll post that soon. We made a pretty cool video of us ice diving.
Oh wow, yeah, that'd be neat to see. Yeah, really cool stuff.
Yeah, it was fun, and that's kind of, these, normally if somebody wanted to go, from I don't know, Virginia or wherever, and, had this idea, I want to take a vacation and go ice diving in Russia, it sounds like this crazy, what the fuck, and if you do this for a 2 weeks thing, you would for sure pay thousands of dollars for that, because you would need the flight there and back, and then you would need to pay for diving course and whatever the hell else, and be a translator. But if you travel slowly and you just end up in these places and you just take the opportunities that come to you and you figure out how to do things for free, or for cheap.
Yes.
And you also meet people along the way that also give rise to more cool opportunities and whatever else,
Right. Oh yeah, it's all about the living and the adventure, and the memories and enjoying it, right? I mean, the restrictions that people create for themselves in a lot of ways, but that they have, I think that's what makes it difficult, obviously, because you have a family or you have these things, and if you live anywhere, you're paying a rent or a mortgage or it's very shackling,
yeah, of
to where
course.
if you do something like that, you kind of have to go quick and come back quick,
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's why I'm trying to explain on my website that it's not about going to these pretty places, it's about a different lifestyle. And,
right.
And I understand, if you have kids, it's not the same story. It will be much more difficult if you wanted to live in a similar lifestyle. But that's the reason I don't have kids, it's the reason I don't want kids. It's the reason I never wanted to buy an apartment or something. I could have, stayed somewhere in fucking Hawaii or New Jersey or whatever the fuck, and, stayed and maybe if somebody would give me a mortgage, maybe I could get a job and buy an apartment and have a kid, but that's not what I want, it's not the kind of lifestyle that I want.
Right.
So, I started that blog because people were complaining to me saying that I wish I could live like you, but I can't because of this and that and that. And I'm like, well, I'm not sure, you really want to live like me? Because maybe you don't understand, that I'm, hitchhiking around the world and, sleeping in random people's houses. And some people don't want that kind of, they see it as insecurity.
Right.
Although for me, I feel like I see it as insecurity if you're, tied to one job and living in one place and you're dependent on that job. And you hate your life.
Exactly.
That's.
Well, it takes a lot of determination and a lot of courage to do that. I mean, I've traveled around here a little bit, but even some of the stuff I did, for example, riding with truckers or whatever the case, stuff like that. And obviously what you do takes a lot of courage. and, want and determination. You're right. You're not going to do it if you don't really want to.
Yeah. And I think the scariest thing for people is to lose their jobs, and to live without a job, because that's mostly what I do is I live with no job. And people see that as like the scariest thing in the world. And to me, it's the best.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, it's what you are brought up and shaped in, and, it's the trickiness when we won't obviously get started on that, but there's nothing wrong with any way you want to be, obviously, but, to be like that, to want kind of like a security feeling, a house, or, a steady place to live or something. Some people are obviously really like that, but it's what comes with that, It's not, if it was just a matter of a choice and then you doing your choice and everybody, again, just, having essentially trade-free stuff, and yeah, that's one thing. But when, choosing this type of lifestyle of living this way that so many people do, it comes with so many shackles,
Mm-hmm. And it's not really a choice either. Like, most people are just pushed into living this lifestyle.
Well, that's true.
They don't even see, and that was another reason I wanted to start my blog, because I realized that people don't even see, like, my kind of lifestyle as an option,
Right.
So I wanted to explain how it could be an option, But yeah, most people are just pushed into having one job and getting a mortgage and a family, and that's it. Maybe they would have wanted to go, via a different path, but
right.
Everyone was telling me the same thing. I fought for like 10 years against my family to leave me the fuck alone, because I didn't want to live like everybody else. And it wasn't until I like started a blog like just 2 years ago that they kind of accepted my lifestyle. So it doesn't come easy.
No, exactly. You're right. But ultimately, you definitely, I know this from experience, you have to do what you want to do. I mean, I don't care if you're the nicest person in the world, the meanest person, the hardest worker, the lazy, it doesn't matter. You will always have people that talk about you. Mm-hmm. You will always have naysayers. You will always have people saying, you should do this, you shouldn't do that. I mean, whether they have good intent or not, it's not the point. You really have to do what you want to do. And again, it's easy to say. I know there's a lot of restrictions people get into or forced into, but I'm just saying it in general. And at any point in your life, you can wake up tomorrow and say, I'm going to start doing this, or I'm going to try to change this, or, it's never too, as long as you're alive, it's never too late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, you have to realize you only have one life,
Exactly.
Just live it. I mean, what are you living for? What is this journey all about to you? Why not make it something? Make it worth it for yourself. Fuck what everybody else says.
You're exactly right, Sasha. Yeah. And it's sad. I mean, so many people get to where it is kind of too late, and then they're looking back on their life and they're like, fuck, now I see, and
yeah. And then they're like 70 years old and, have all sorts of health problems.
Yeah. So, everybody's got their own battle, so to speak. And, you just try to make the most of any given situation, I think. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll wrap this up with the last Curious 5 question. I tried to find one more adept to kind of your travels and stuff. I was going to ask you, what was your favorite or least favorite experience? But again, I know that would be hard to answer, and that's probably something to save for the book because, that encompasses a lot, and that kind of would give some stuff away there or whatever, So we'll save that one. We'll wait for your book for that one. But so I'll just ask you, and this one might be a little difficult also, but what is your natural fear?
My natural fear?
Mm-hmm.
Fear? Like, what do I fear?
Yeah, something that's, I guess, comes naturally and you fear it.
Like getting sick, maybe, like getting some kind of bad disease. That would be bad. Yeah,
being incapacitated somehow like that.
Dying. I wouldn't want to die.
You've kind of feared death?
I mean, I don't fear death that much. Probably if you read my book, you probably wouldn't think that I fear death at all. But I would hate to... I mean, of course, I would hate to die, and I would hate especially to, like, get really sick and have cancer or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I fear that too. I mean, tell you the truth, I don't fear death. I fear that kind of stuff more than I do death. Like getting in an accident and losing like my legs or
being paralyzed or something.
Right, exactly. Or being paralyzed or I really truly I would much rather die. I mean, if I lived, I guess I'd be like, fuck it, I got to live, I survived
I'd still rather live.
Well, I would too if we're talking about like losing legs, but I meant like paralyzed. Like if I was a vegetable, that type of shit, then yeah, I would not want to live like that at all.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think I fear that much though.
Well, it was interesting. I kind of left it also that question because you can't fear a whole lot doing what you do. I mean, you might have little fears that, come and go and you fight through them. But short of something like maybe claustrophobia or fear of spiders, those types of things.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything like that. Like, I got a little bit of claustrophobia, like when I was ice diving and there was 2 meters of ice above my head and only like a meter of like water between the ground and the ice. And I was like, I didn't know where the hole was. And I was like, oh my God, I'm under 2 meters of ice. And I started to feel a little claustrophobic, but then I just calmed down and breathed and looked at the ground and then, it was fine. I had the rope in my hand. I knew where the hole was. It's just being under like ice diving for the first time, you can get a little bit of claustrophobia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I am claustrophobic. And when I saw those pictures and I thought about it before, but when I saw those, it reminded me that would scare the shit out of me. I don't know if I could do it because I would feel like you, like, where the hell is the hole? I don't want to go more than like a couple feet from the hole,
Even though you can like see the hole, like you tug on the rope and you can get back to the hole because you're holding this massive rope that leads to another person holding the other side of the rope,
Yeah, I got
outside.
you.
But yeah. But yeah, I don't know.
Pretty fearless. I mean, like I said, you'd have to be. You really would. I mean, actions tell you everything about somebody. They really do. I've always said for a long time, I can be best friends with a deaf mute. I mean, you don't have to say shit because your actions will tell me what I need to know, So that's true of anybody, and your actions tell that you don't have much fear. I mean, we all have some, but you can't have fear that you don't overcome to do what you do. So yeah, congratulations to you, Sasha. It's really... You're like, yeah, I have no fear.
No, I'm probably like, once we get off the phone, something's going to happen and I'm going to get scared.
Yeah. Like that movie Final Destination, something's always going to be coming for you now. Well, Sasha, I really do appreciate you being on the show. Taking a lot of your time to talk with me and share your experiences and your travels. It's been really interesting, and I really appreciate you doing it.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been great talking to you. Yeah, great work that you're doing with the show. Yeah,
thank you. And just to recap, everybody, you can read her blog on Big World, Small Sasha. Get that right. I hadn't messed it up until that
Not Big
time.
Sasha, Small World.
But like I said, it depends on how you look
world,
at it.
Small Sasha.
Because if you're up against you would look big. And if you're zoomed out, no, But yeah, right. BigWorldSmallSasha.com is her website. And there's a lot of interesting things in there in general with the traveling and everything. I highly encourage everyone who's into this kind of socioeconomic stuff that we generally talk about to read her article, Why I Left the Venus Project, because again, it's not a zero about judging or, drawing conclusions. It's just information. It's insider information, and it's important to know. And, some of the articles you've wrote on there is really interesting. Tromcast, you can find it, listen to it. It's a live stream they do, Sasha and the Trom Project, and you can find that on tromsite.com/live.
Well, that's where we have the link to join. But to watch like the previous Tromcasts, you can go to tromcast.com/videos, and there we have a bunch of different kinds of videos. One of them are from the Tromcasts.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's right. Tromcast
Tromsite.
It's Tromsite/videos, and that's where all the videos and the old Tromcast are, right? And if you're interested to join the live chats, that's Tromsite/live.
Yeah.
Okay, great, Sasha. Thank you again so much for everything, and best of luck to you with all your future endeavors.
Yeah, okay, great. Thanks a lot, Alex. Yeah, best of luck to you as well. It's great talking to you.
Thank you so much, Sasha. You too.
Okay, thanks.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.
As always, I want to thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope you got something out of it. That's what this is all about for me, trying to inform, educate, and inspire people. The sooner people realize the veil of lies we've bought into, and that we already possess all the knowledge and technology we need for sustainability and abundance for everyone, the sooner the transition can start. Please feel free to email, follow, share, comment, like, subscribe. I welcome any and all feedback or support. And I hope you'll tune in next time for another episode of the All Real Show. We are